Welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. We continue our political edition of this show, Campaign 2016, with Emory University political science professor Andra Gillespie. We're talking about the presidential race, and I want to get into some of the down ballot races as well, specifically here in the state of Georgia. Are there any incumbents that are in trouble?
I would say probably not at this particular point. I think what they're worried about, I think Johnny Isakson in particular, is worried about their having less of a commanding lead. He's been used to having Democrats who will support him in races, and so given the unpopularity of Donald Trump, there may be a point at which Jim Barksdale, if he can increase his name identification.
The guy with the hat?
Yes.
Yes.
If he increases his name identification, that he might actually be able to draw in voters who could be persuaded to vote, to not split their ticket. So new Democratic voters who would be voting for Hillary Clinton or against Donald Trump, who would then also just vote for the Democratic candidate out of a sense of party loyalty.
And obviously it would be a massive blow if Donald Trump were to lose the state of Georgia, because then you're looking at not just here in Georgia where senators like Johnny Isakson, who traditionally have had strong support, could be in deep trouble, but across the country, right, you could see a wave election.
Right. I mean, if Donald Trump loses Georgia, then chances are he's going to lose on the magnitude of, say, McCarthy or a Mondale. Yeah. So I think you're going to be looking at a massive loss.
That would be very, I think we could lose Utah if that were to happen too. I even saw a poll out of Mississippi that had it tight. So, but all those polls, they're a little wobbly at this point. Not sure people believe it.
People change their minds in polls. So your poll is as good as the moment that it was asked. So with new information, people may change their minds. And so you pay more attention as the polls kind of get closer to election day.
What can a guy like Johnny Isakson do to try and get ticket splitters specifically in this year? Or is he doing anything specifically to do that outside of what his normal campaign, which would be rally the base, turn out the base here in Georgia, win the election?
Well, one of the things that's actually been interesting is in the ads that he has done, you've seen him in attempt try to appeal to Democratic voters by highlighting his constituent services, by including people who self-identify as Democrats in those ads, and then reminding them of the good work that he's done and reminding them that he's a more moderate Republican, that he's not a Trump-style Republican.
Okay, back to the presidential campaign. I believe the first debate is at the end of this month, and that is going to be interesting, having both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump sitting this close to each other or standing behind podiums. I don't know what maybe you know what the format is, but I haven't heard it as of yet. Let's play devil's advocate here on both sides. If you are Donald Trump's campaign advisor, what are you telling him not to do in that debate?
He has to not look like a bully, but he has to make Hillary Clinton look uncomfortable. And he has to put her on the defensive.
How does he do that?
So he has to figure out a way to attack her in a way that doesn't come off as patently sexist, but he has to do so in a way that's going to make her defensive. So I suspect the emails are going to come up because it seems to be a soft spot with her. And it's a soft spot that she hasn't overcome yet over the cycle. He's going to try to attack her character. There seems to be this debate about what qualified means in this contest, and so he's going to say that her character disqualifies her from being president. Clinton is going to try to say that his lack of experience plus his temperament disqualifies him from being president. And it's just a question of which definition of qualified is going to prevail.
Now, do you think she will be able to get under his skin or vice versa? Because it seems like one of them is going to have the upper hand. I remember watching Donald in the Republican debates with Jeb Bush and going hard after his brother standing right next to him. So he's not going to shy away from that combativeness. Obviously, he's Donald Trump. Well, how does Hillary react? Because she's never been on stage with somebody like that before.
Right. So, so what she's going to have to do is she's going to have to prove that she is the smartest person in the room and that she is eminently prepared for it, has the experience to address certain types of situations. So basically, she's going to have to make Trump look like he's ill-prepared for the job and actually doesn't know the facts all that well. And she's perhaps going to try to goad him into doing something that's going to highlight the facts that she's been trying to put out in the last couple of weeks about his temperament. So she might want him to fly off at the handle in such a way that she might be able to use it in a subsequent ad and basically ask the question of whether or not this is the person whose finger you want to have on the button.
Right. One of the huge things every debate prepper and strategist tries to do is set a trap for whoever they're going against and make them walk right into it with glee and then hit them with the hammer over the head when they're done with it. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on how you think the debates will shape the actual race at that point as far as the polling goes. Do you expect to see that move the needle one way or the other?
So CNN ORC released a poll this week which suggested that most people think that Hillary Clinton is going to win the debate, which means that that sets a high bar for her. So if she doesn't perform outstandingly in this particular race, then that could have a negative impact on her. It also sets the bar pretty low for Donald Trump, which means that if he exceeds expectations, even if he doesn't win the race, that people might actually look very differently on him. There was some work that was done in the 2000 race that said that the bar was set actually very, very low for George W. Bush, and when he exceeded that low bar, then people...
That was the famous lockbox debate from Al Gore.
Right. That actually was favorable for George W.
Propelled
Bush.
him to the White House.
So so this expectation that Clinton is going to win hands down actually puts her in a much more vulnerable position than Trump. And the other thing is that Trump can usually find a way to make lemonade out of lemons, and so he'll figure out a way to spin it so that he does well, or that in his mind he does well.
It's going to be very interesting because that first debate, you never get a chance to redo a first impression, and this is their first impression together. So how they interact with each other, that is going to be extremely interesting. The following two, perhaps less consequential, but equally interesting.
Yep.
All right, Andra, thanks so much for being here today. We will see how it all shakes out now, just 2 months away. We'll be right back.